Mom, how much longer will it take to get to Udugu? You really think you can find Udugu before me?
Remember Simba's son Kopa from the Lion King books? He was the cute little cub destined to be king, but then something strange happened. Kopa vanished without a trace, like footprints in the shifting sands. What's going on here? Did Disney simply forget about Kopa? Or is there a darker secret hiding in the Pride Lands? One that hints at untold pain? We're going to follow the clues and uncover the mystery of the vanishing prince. Get ready for a wild ride through the savannah as we piece together what really happened to Simba's firstborn son. Remember when we first met Kopa in those Lion King books? He was this adorable little cub, Simba and Nala's firstborn son, and everyone in the Pride Lands was so excited about him, but then something really weird happened. Kopa just disappeared from the story, and we never saw him in any of the movies or TV shows. It's like he never existed in the first place, and that's pretty strange, right? So let's go back to those books and see what they told us about Kopa. He was supposed to be this big deal, the future king of Pride Rock, and all the animals loved him. He had these cool adventures with his friends like Timon and Pumbaa, and he was learning how to be a good leader from his dad Simba. But then poof, he just vanished from the story, and Disney never explained what happened to him. But here's the weird part, Disney never said anything about what happened to Kopa. It's like they pretended he never existed in the first place. And that's really suspicious if you think about it. We know Simba and Nala had other cubs later on, like Kiara in The Lion King 2 and Kion in the Lion Guard series. But they never mentioned Kopa, not even once. It's like there's this big secret that nobody wants to talk about. So what if something bad happened to Kopa? What if there's a dark secret hiding in the Pride Lands that nobody wants to talk about? Maybe Kopa got into some kind of trouble, or maybe someone didn't want him to be the future king. There are so many possibilities, and it's making my head spin just thinking about it. And here's another thing to think about. What if Kopa's disappearance is the reason Simba became so overprotective of Kiara in the second movie? Remember how he was always worried about her safety and didn't want her to go anywhere alone? Maybe he was scared of losing another cub, and that's why he was so strict with Kiara. But wait, there's more. What if Kopa isn't really gone? What if he's still out there somewhere, maybe lost or hiding? I mean, think about it. In the Lion Guard, we see that there are other places beyond the Pride Lands, like the Outlands and the Tree of Life. What if Kopa ended up in one of those places and couldn't find his way back home? Or maybe he got hurt and had to stay away to heal, just like Kion did when he went to the Tree of Life. And speaking of Kion, what if he and Kopa are connected somehow? They're both Simba's sons after all. What if Kion's whole journey in the Lion Guard was somehow connected to finding out what happened to his big brother? Maybe that's why Rafiki never mentioned Kopa to Kion. He was trying to protect him from the truth until he was ready to handle it. It's like there's this big puzzle about Kopa, and we only have a few pieces. We know he existed in the books, but then he just disappeared without any explanation, and nobody in the Lion King world ever talks about him, which makes it even more suspicious. It's like there's this big mystery surrounding Kopa, and nobody's talking about it, but we're gonna try and figure it out. Okay, so we've been talking about Kopa's disappearance, but what if there's more to this story? What if someone had a really big reason to want Kopa gone? Let's talk about Zira, because she might be the key to this whole mystery. Remember how angry Zira was at Simba? Her anger went way deeper than just being sent away from the Pride Lands. What if Kopa was somehow mixed up in all of this? Think about it. Zira was always plotting her revenge against Simba, but what if she decided to hurt him in the worst way possible? What if she went after his son, his firstborn, the future king? That would explain why Simba was so furious when he banished Zira and the other outsiders. It wasn't just about loyalty to Scar, it was about something much, much worse. And here's another thing to think about. Zira was always going on and on about how Kovu would be king one day. But what if that wasn't her first plan? What if she only started focusing on Kovu after something happened to Kopa? It's like she had to come up with a new strategy because her first one didn't work out. Now, let's talk about Nuka and Vitani for a second. Nuka was always complaining about not being the chosen one, and Vitani seemed to know an awful lot about the Pride Lands, even though she was supposed to have been exiled as a little cub. What if they both knew something about what happened to Kopa? Maybe Nuka did something really bad, or maybe Vitani saw something she she wasn't supposed to see. We also have to think about the timing of all this. Kopa disappeared around the same time that Zira and the Outsiders were kicked out of the Pride Lands. That can't just be a coincidence, can it? It's like all these pieces are starting to fit together. So what if Zira's whole big plan for revenge started with getting rid of Kopa? That would explain why she was so obsessed with making Kovu the next king. It wasn't just about Scar's legacy anymore. It was about taking away what Simba loved most and replacing it with something of her own. But here's where it gets really interesting. What if Kopa didn't just disappear? What if something even worse happened? Maybe that's why Simba never talks about him. Maybe it's too painful to remember. And think about how this might have affected Simba and Nala as parents. If they lost their firstborn son, wouldn't that explain why Simba was so overprotective of Kiara? This could also explain why the Pride Landers and the Outsiders hated each other so much. It wasn't just about Scar anymore. It was about something much more personal, much more painful. And what about the other animals in the Pride Lands? Did they know what happened to Kopa? Maybe that's why they're all so loyal to Simba. But here's another thought. What if Kopa is still out there somewhere? What if he survived whatever Zira did to him and he's been hiding all this time? Maybe he's afraid to come back, or maybe he doesn't remember who he is. Or what if Kopa is actually someone we've already met in the Lion King world? What if he's been right under our noses this whole time and we just didn't realize it? All of these questions lead us to one big conclusion. Zira's revenge plot against Simba might have started way earlier than we thought, and it might have been way more personal than just wanting to put Scar's heir on the throne. But wait, have you ever really thought about how Simba acts in The Lion King 2? He's always so worried about Kiara, always trying to keep her safe. Simba watches Kiara like a hawk. He never wants her to go anywhere alone. He even sends Timon and Pumbaa to follow her around. What if Simba's terrified of losing another cub? What if he's already lost one before? And then there's Nala. She's always the calm one, always trying to get Simba to relax a little. But what if that's just a mask? What if Nala's hiding her own pain about losing Kopa? Maybe she's just better at keeping it inside, but it's still there, eating away at her. Have you ever noticed how Simba and Nala never talk about having another cub before Kiara? It's like Kiara just appears out of nowhere. What if they've been avoiding the subject because it's too painful? Remember how Simba doesn't want to tell Kiara about the Outsiders? He gets all weird and secretive about it. What if Simba's afraid that if he starts talking about the Outsiders, he might slip up and reveal what really happened to Kopa? We all know Simba has those crazy nightmares about Scar, right? But what if some of those nightmares are actually about losing Kopa? Think about how Simba reacts when Kiara first mentions Kovu. He gets so angry so fast. It's like someone flipped a switch. What if seeing Kovu reminds Simba of what happened to Kopa? Maybe that's why he's so dead set against Kiara having anything to do with him. Here's another thing that's weird. Rafiki knows everything, right? He's like this all-knowing baboon who's always sharing wisdom. So why doesn't he ever mention Kopa? Not even once. What if Rafiki knows something about what happened to Kopa, but he's keeping it secret to protect Simba and Nala? And then there's Timon. Did you notice how surprised he seems when Kiara is born? He acts like he's never seen a cub before. What if Timon and Pumbaa knew about Kopa? What if they were there when he was little, just like they were with Simba? Maybe they were sworn to secrecy after something bad happened to Kopa. All of this makes you wonder, doesn't it? What if Simba and Nala's whole way of being parents is shaped by losing Kopa? Maybe that's why they're so overprotective of Kiara. Maybe that's why they never talk about the past. It's like they're carrying around this huge, heavy secret, and it's changing everything about how they act. But what if we've been missing little hints about Kopa all along? Maybe there are tiny references to him hidden in the Lion King movies, just waiting for someone to spot them. What if in some scenes, Simba looks off into the distance like he's remembering something sad? Or what if they're a place in the Pride Lands that Simba and Nala avoid because they remind them of Kopa? And what about the stars? You know how the great kings of the past are up there? What if Simba sometimes looks up at the stars, not just to see his father, but to look for Kopa too? Maybe there's a moment in one of the movies where we see Simba staring at the sky, and we thought he was thinking about Mufasa, but he was really thinking about his lost son. Okay guys, so we've been watching the Lion King movies over and over, and guess what? We might have found some sneaky clues about Kopa hiding right under our noses this whole time. Can you believe it? So let's take a closer look at some of these scenes and see if we can spot anything that might tell us more about what happened to Simba's first son. It's like there are little footprints in the sand all over these movies telling us about Kopa, but they're starting to fade away and we gotta catch them before they disappear forever, you know what I mean? So let's start with that weird scene in The Lion King 2 where Simba is looking at his reflection in the water. It's not just Mufasa he's seeing, it's like he's remembering Kopa too and feeling all guilty about not being able to protect him. And then there's how Simba acts. When Kiara asks about the Outlands, he gets all uncomfortable, like he's hiding something big. What if that's where something really bad happened to Kopa, and that's why he's so scared of Kiara going there? And have you ever noticed how the other lionesses never talk about Simba and Nala's past? It's like they're all keeping this big secret, even Pride. Rock itself might be hiding something. What if there's a hidden cave where Simba and Nala go to remember Kopa in private and remember that creepy elephant graveyard we see in the first movie? What if it's not just a scary place, but also a hint about something really bad that happened to Kopa? And what about all the animals in the Pride Lands? Some of them seem to be watching Simba's family really closely, like they're keeping an eye out for any signs of Kopa, or maybe they're just worried about what might happen to Kiara after what happened to her brother. And have you seen how some of the zebras and antelopes look kinda nervous when Simba walks by, like they know something, but they're too scared to talk? Then there's Zazu, always giving Simba reports about the kingdom, but what if he's also secretly looking for Kopa, just in case? And Rafiki, that wise old baboon who knows everything, why doesn't he ever mention Kopa? Maybe he's keeping a big secret to protect Simba and Nala. And think about how Timon and Pumbaa act around Kiara. They're like super protective of her. Maybe it's because they remember what happened to Kopa and they don't want to lose another one of Simba's cubs. They might feel all guilty about not being able to save Kopa, so they're trying extra hard with Kiara. Even the way Simba reacts when he first meets Kovu, it's like he's seeing a ghost or something. What if Kovu reminds him of Kopa in some way? And speaking of the outsiders, have you ever noticed how Vitani seems to know a lot about the Pride Lands, even though she was exiled as a little cub? What if she knew Kopa before everything went wrong? And here's another weird thing. Remember how Nala is always trying to calm Simba down when he gets overprotective of Kiara? What if she's doing that because she remembers how they lost Kopa and she doesn't want Simba to push Kiara away by being too strict? And what about those weird dreams Simba has about Scar? What if they're not just about Scar, but also about Kopa? Maybe he's reliving the moment when he lost his son and mixing it up with his memories of Scar in his nightmares. It's like all these little clues are coming together to tell us a big story about what really happened to Kopa, and we just gotta figure out how to put all the pieces together. Alright, Lion King fans, hold on to your manes because we're about to dive into some of the wildest theories about what happened to Kopa. You know how fans love to come up with crazy ideas, right? Well, they've outdone themselves this time with some seriously out there explanations for Kopa's disappearance. Let's start with a theory that's not too crazy, but still pretty interesting. What if Kopa didn't actually die or get hurt? Maybe he just got scared of becoming king and ran away from the Pride Lands. Can you imagine Simba's son being afraid of ruling? It's kind of funny when you think about it, but maybe Kopa saw how hard it was for his dad and decided he wasn't cut out for the job, so he just took off one day and started a new life somewhere else. But what if Kopa didn't just run away? Some fans think he might have been kidnapped by poachers. Think about it. We know there are humans in the Lion King world, right? So what if some bad guys snuck into the Pride Lands and snatched Kopa when no one was looking? That would explain why no one ever found him. He could be in a zoo somewhere, or maybe he escaped and is living in a totally different part of Africa. Now, here's where things get even wilder. What if Kopa fell into a river and got washed away to a whole new part of Africa? Maybe he ended up in a place where no one had ever heard of the Pride Lands, so he just started his own pride there. Imagine Kopa as a grown-up lion ruling over his own kingdom far away from home. But wait, it gets even crazier. Some fans think Kopa might have been turned into a human. I know it sounds wild, but what if there was some kind of magic in the Pride Lands that we don't know about? Maybe Kopa stumbled into a secret cave or met a mysterious creature that zapped him with a spell. And now he's been living in the human world this whole time, trying to figure out how to turn back into a lion. And speaking of magic, here's the absolute craziest theory of all. Some fans think Kopa is actually Mufasa reincarnated. I know, it's totally wild, but think about it. What if Kopa disappeared because he had to go be the ghost in the clouds? Maybe that's why Mufasa was able to appear to Simba later on. It's like Kopa's spirit merged with Mufasa's or something. So what do you think happened to Kopa? Did he run away? Was he kidnapped? Did he turn into a human or become Mufasa's ghost? We might never know for sure, but it's fun to imagine all the possibilities. Okay, Lion King fans, get ready because we're about to explore the most exciting possibility yet. What if Kopa isn't really gone at all? What if Simba and Nala's firstborn son is still out there somewhere just waiting for the right moment to come back home? Remember those clues we talked about earlier that hinted at Kopa's existence? Well, now we're going to imagine how they could all come together in the most amazing way. Let's think about two big possibilities for where Kopa might be first. What if he's been at the Tree of Life this whole time? Maybe when he was little, he got hurt really bad and had to leave the Pride Lands to find help, just like Kion did later on, but this was way before anyone knew about the Tree of Life, so nobody could find him. Imagine if Kopa has been there all these years, getting stronger and learning how to be an incredible leader. Or here's another idea. What if Kopa has been living with a different pride of lions? Maybe he lost his memory when he was little, and a kind lioness took him in and raised him as her own. He could have grown up learning all sorts of cool lion skills that would make him an awesome king someday, and he doesn't even know that he's actually a prince. Can you picture how amazing it would be if Kopa showed up in a new Lion King story? Just think about that moment when Simba and Nala see their long-lost son for the first time after all these years. It would be so emotional, but it would also bring up a lot of complicated feelings, like why hasn't Kopa come back before now? Maybe he's scared that his family won't recognize him anymore, or that they've moved on without him. But if Kopa did come back, it would change everything in the Pride Lands, wouldn't it? Like, would he still be the heir to the throne since he's the oldest? Or would Kiara still be next in line because she's been there the whole time? And how would Kiara and Kion feel about suddenly having a big brother they never knew about? That could be really weird for them, and oh my goodness, can you imagine what would happen if Kopa met Kovu? That would be such a tense moment because Kovu is married to Kiara now, but he used to be part of Zira's pride, and Zira might have been the one who hurt Kopa in the first place. So would they be able to get along, or would there be some serious lion drama? All these possibilities are so exciting to think about. It's like Kopa coming back would open up a whole new world of stories for the Lion King. Maybe we could see him trying to fit back in with his family, or teaching Kiara and Kion cool big brother stuff, or even going on adventures to other parts of Africa that we've never seen before. So we've been on this wild journey through the Pride Lands, trying to figure out what happened to Kopa. The Lion King world is bigger and more complex than we ever thought. Maybe Kopa is out there watching over his family or on his own adventure. The possibilities are endless, and that's what makes this story so exciting. Every time we watch The Lion King now, we'll be looking for new clues about the lost prince. What do you think happened to Kopa? Share your theories. Let's keep our eyes open and our imaginations running wild as we continue to explore the mysteries of the Lion King universe.